welcome back to another new video. This time we're talking a little about the Chinese Grand Prix, kind of like a Chinese Grand Prix preview. It's finally race week, the 2017 Chinese Grand Prix to be exact, and hopefully this will be the true test of the 2017 Formula One cars. Since they all say that they needed a proper racetrack to test it out on, well, this is the proper racetrack to test it out on, featuring two long straights which have two DRS zones with ample space and distance to overtake someone. So hopefully we'll see what these cars are really made of. All right. Coupled with three sectors totaling 16 total corners over a 5.451 a 5.5 kilometer circuit for 56 laps, it should hopefully make for an interesting sessions to harness this power generated by these cars. Setup will be key, and tire wear has been an issue in the past. But this year, with the new Pirelli tires, I don't see tire wear being an issue whatsoever this year. So it will be basically down to the setup, along with suspecting that we will see slightly slower top end speed at this circuit in years past. But since the cars are wider and the tires are wider, so it creates more drag. But with the added acceleration due to downforce in these corners, the record lap time may be broken this year with these new cars. One can only hope, but only time will tell once the Grand Prix starts. Will Vettel and Ferrari maintain their momentum this weekend? Mercedes thinks so, but if it wasn't for an early pit stop for Hamilton, he may have won that race. What if Hamilton didn't get held up by Verstappen? Yes, Vettel eventually pulled away once he made his pit stop, but Hamilton was gaining fast after his initial pit stop. But hopefully it isn't as boring with 5 total on-track overtakes this time, like in Australia. I suspect we'll have more just due to the DRS zones being very long and very wide. Leave a comment below and leave me your pick on who is going to win this Grand Prix. All right, let's talk about some headlines before this Grand Prix. First, let's talk about Sauber. As you guys already know, Antonio Giovinazzi will be driving in place of Pascal Wehrlein again. With Wehrlein saying he still isn't fit. He is hoping to be back in the seat for the Bahrain Grand Prix, but wasn't even conclusive on that, since he said, if not, I will be ready for Russia. So which means he may not even be at Bahrain as well. So is his back still hindering him, or is he really not fit for a full race weekend? Because overall, his Race of Champions crash didn't look all too serious. Yeah, he did like a barrel roll, and he even gave like an interview after it even happened. But who knows? But who really knows if his back is really fit, or is he just making some sort of excuses? I'm sure Ericsson would want a better showing. But overall, though, let's move on from Giovinazzi and Wehrlein. I'm sure Giovinazzi will be fine in the car, and it'll be his first full weekend with Sauber. So I'm sure they'll be looking forward to it. At least Antonio will, and the Ferrari hopeful will be looking at him closely. But I'm sure Ericsson will want a better showing from Australia, having been taken out in turn 2 by the Haas driver Kevin Magnussen. I'm sure he will want to beat Giovinazzi at the very least. On to Mercedes. Will Hamilton edge over Vettel and Bottas during the weekend? I know he hopes that he does, but with both Mercedes cars showing some great pace during practice and qualifying during Australia, and even during the race, I think that they can pull it out. I think they can pull it off. I'm sure they have looked at the tire wear situation that Hamilton was complaining about, and they will test it out during practice session. But I'm sure Mercedes would want a 1-2 finish, a 1-2 finish and a 1-2 qualification for the start of the race. Ideally, Mercedes 1-2 to ward off any threat of the Ferrari team, which leads me into Ferrari. Can Vettel and Ferrari luck out again with an early Mercedes pit stop? I'm sure they didn't plan on Hamilton coming in early, and I know they didn't think he would lose so much time behind Verstappen, but Vettel has tasted victory for the first time in 2 years, so I'm sure he will be determined to match the results. Overall, I'm sure they will expect a better performance from Raikkonen, even though putting in the fastest lap time during the race in Australia, he seemed to be in no man's land the entire race, coming P4 and qualifying P4, and he just sort of just sat there the entire race, and yeah, banging a banger lap at the end of the race. But overall, he was just so far behind Bottas that it didn't seem necessary. It didn't seem like he was even trying. So I'm sure they were expecting a better result overall, at least a double podium for Ferrari for the weekend. Now on the Red Bull, I'm sure Daniel Ricciardo will be coming with a vengeance this weekend, having the most horrible luck during his home Grand Prix. Crashing out in qualifying 3 and a gearbox change dropped him all the way down to position 15 for the start of the race. Then his car stopped mid formation lap, ruined his race before it even got started. He came out 2 laps later, but still didn't finish the race. Disappointing day for everyone, seeing their hero not even finish the Grand Prix. I really hope for a better result for him. But Verstappen, I'm sure he didn't expect to be a Ferrari teammate during the Australian Grand Prix, but it turned out that way. Regardless, a P5 finish must have had Red Bull worried about their car design this year, being so far out the pace to not even qualify in the top 4. All right, now on to Williams. The recent retiree and the unretired Felipe Massa had a great showing in Australia. I'm sure Williams will expect another solid showing from him in the points again this week. I'm sure they will tell Lance Stroll to take it easy during practice and qualifying, since they really don't need another grid place penalty again for a change of gearbox for this Grand Prix. I know he showed some talent going from P20 to P13 in the matter of a lap. Granted, Magnussen and Ericsson took each other out in turn 2, but still, he didn't hit anyone. Now on to Force India, Williams' main rival. They had a mixed result in Australia, since they would have hoped Perez finished in front of Massa, but that wasn't the case. But Perez and Ocon both finished within the points, so I'm sure they would be hoping to top that this weekend. Ocon making P10 on his maiden start with his new team was a great sign of good things to come. Let's hope he gets that pink car further up the grid. Go Fab 1 and Fab 2. All right, Toro Rosso. Although they have the sexiest livery this year and looks a lot like the Mercedes car design, but they had the least amount of laps taken during testing in Spain. Yes, even behind McLaren, but they still finished position 8 and P9 in Australia. Not as good as they would have wanted, since they want to lead the midfield this year, but for how their car was performing, Sainz and Kvyat took that car into the points, so they really cannot complain. They can only build from that. Which leads me into Haas, because a lot of those points gained by those other teams were points lost in Haas's eyes, with Grosjean's engine failing lap 16 at the Grand Prix after taking the car to P6 in qualifying, but Magnussen crashing out and ultimately not finishing. I'm sure they felt like they left a lot of points on the table in Australia. The car has been fast during testing and in most parts of Australia, especially having come P6 in qualifying. Reliability is what they need to work on. Also, they need to dial in a good setup for Madison, having seen that he had trouble with his car in Australia, but not so much in Spain. So also, let's hope they get their T-Wing situation figured out. And we wish Haas a good result in China. Renault, I'm sure Palmer will want a better result after his dismal weekend in Australia. And with their new driver signing, Hülkenberg finishing P11, I'm pretty sure that Renault thought they'd be in the points in Australia. So after the first Grand Prix, it doesn't seem that way. They lacked the pace overall. They lacked the the setup. So maybe China will suit their style better. Only time will tell. We will see. All right, last but certainly not least, McLaren, with Fernando Alonso saying he is targeting a trouble-free race weekend, but their track record right now for the season doesn't suggest that. With having so much problems during testing and then during Australia, we'll see. Van Dorn finished P13 in Australia, but was way off the pace, being 2 laps down alongside Hulkenberg and Giovinazzi with Sauber. But Alonso had his car P10 before he had to retire. So I'm sure Honda and McLaren hope for better results, but with no upgrades scheduled until Monaco, which is at the end of May, it'll be a long road ahead for Team McLaren Honda. if you haven't noticed, all of the teams have something to improve on. All of them have to either want to at least match the results from last session, but yet improve upon that. And everyone sort of seems to be in the same boat. Being only the second race of the year, a lot of unknowns are still up in the air. They still don't have all their answers. There's gonna have to do more data collection to figure out which upgrades to improve. But overall, all the cars are just sort of stuck with what they have right now, and just try to improve upon the results from Australia. So the Chinese Grand Prix should be the first real test of these 2017 cars, and see if they actually can pass each other. I'm sure we all hope that they can have some good racing, and good racing involves overtaking, not just pit lane overtakes, like we saw in Australia. I'm Brandon from USF1. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like this video if you like the Chinese Grand Prix, and don't forget to leave a comment who you guys predict will win the 2017 Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai, China. But yeah, guys, I'm Brandon from USF1. Peace.